Hey everybody, it's Judy Klock, your Stampin' Up demonstrator here in Middletown, Virginia. And I am coming to you today for another tutorial. And this one is going to be on coloring techniques. So let me show you, let me add my desk, swap it out. Why isn't it swapping out? There, that's not what I wanted. There we go. That's what I want. So I'm going to be working with the Soft Pastels today. These are from Stampin' Up. They're just another way to color your images. The colors include Coastal Cabana, Daffodil Delight, Flirty Flamingo, Gorgeous Grape, Granny Apple Green, Mossy Meadow, Night of Navy, and Poppy Parade. So now you can apply these in a number of ways. You can use blending brushes. You can use like a watercolor painter or a paintbrush and water, just water. You can use daubers. So today our first way that we're going to do it is we're going to do like pouncing pastels or popping pastels. We're going to stamp that image in Versamark, and then we're just going to pounce with our sponge dauber. We're going to add some color to that stamped image. Go ahead and work with our first card. So our base is going to be Mossy Meadow. It's going to be our standard base, 8.5, 5.5. I've scored it at 4 1/4. I have a piece of basic white for the inside. That's going to be 4 by 5 1/4. Got a couple of pieces of accent papers here. We've got some cloud cover, and we've got an old piece. This is the old in color, or the old designer series paper. But this is the Mossy Meadow. My new one hasn't arrived yet, so I just figured I'd use that piece for this. And then I've got here a piece of basic white that we're going to stamp. I've got a little sentiment from one of our ephemera packs. So we're going to use our Versamark ink. Now remember, Versamark is like a sticky ink, which is great for when you're using embossing powders because the powders will stick to the ink. Same concept here. We want that pastel dust or chalk dust to stick to our image. So there I've stamped our image. Now it's really hard to see. If you hear stuff falling, I've got the craft desk Jenga going on. There's just like piles of everything. So I'm going to add some what I call the pastel dust or chalk dust to my scrap paper. And you'll notice I have layers of scrap paper because as we go through these, we're going to remove each layer of scrap paper. So I'm going to pick up some color with my dauber, and I'm just going to pounce it or pop it on to my Versamark stamped image. And you can see that image starting to come out. So once you start adding the pastels, that dust, that pastel color will stick to where that Versamark ink is. And it will also create a little bit of a shadow, a little tiny shadow behind your image. So not only do you get the crisp image, but you also get like a little bit of a soft haze with the shadow of the pastel behind it. So let's go ahead. Let's put that away for now. I'm going to grab one of my baby wipes. Don't work with pastels without having these handy. I always keep a pack on my desk because you never know. But I don't want to transfer the pastel from one work surface to another. So I'm just going to wipe my hands. I'm going to get rid of this piece of paper because it's got that pastel dust on there, which we don't want to transfer. So I'm just going to take care of that. Put my clean piece of scrap paper down for my next one. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and assemble this card. Out of the way. So I'm going to put a piece of basic white on the inside. This is, again, 4 by 5 1/4. I'm just going to add that here. All right, then we're going to layer up, and I will have all the measurements for all of these pieces on the corresponding blog post, which I will link in the description to this video. So you can go back and get the complete supply list, complete measurements. All right, let's go ahead. Let's add this to our cloud cover. I really like the way cloud cover and mossy meadow work together. It wasn't really one of the combinations I would have really thought to put together, but I really think they play well nicely. They play, they play nicely together. So I'm just going to stick that in my little arsenal for later. And I think they're great colors. It would be great colors for a masculine card. So I know sometimes we all struggle with those masculine cards, and I think this combo of the Secret Sea, not cloud cover, Secret Sea and the mossy meadow just really works really well together. All right, we're going to go ahead and add this. Kind of like the stacked effect of layering these different size layers. Oh my goodness. Yikes. Sometimes. What is going on? Is this almost out? Nope, it's not. I don't know what was going on with that. Sometimes it happens. All right, let's just go add this. Now I have this Hello. It's from one of our ephemera packs. And I wanted to add just the tiniest tint of color. So I'm just going to take my dauber. I'm going to take my silicone matte because I don't want to get my next layer all dirty, but I'm just going to kind of pounce any leftover color kind of on the end of this word, because this is going to kind of be on the white there. So I have it's really just the tiniest hint of color. You can barely see it, but that's exactly what I wanted. Oh, I still want my matte. I'm getting so excited here. I'm getting rid of stuff. All right. So I'm going to put on little tiny drops of glue. I love the ephemera packs. I wish they would be like self-adhesive though, because these are just little tiny narrow pieces. You got to use the littlest, tiniest bits of glue to make sure that, okay, this has decided it doesn't want to come out. Okay, don't know why. Okay, but there we go. Just little tiny bits of glue, because you don't want to have too much. You don't want it to be like all coming out and getting all over your card, your beautiful card. So we're just going to use little tiny drops, just enough to kind of hold it in place. Now, normally, if this was something I was going to die cut, I most assuredly would have put on an adhesive sheet and backed it with an adhesive sheet. But because it's a die cut from the ephemera pack, no chance to put it on adhesive. So I just got to do this. And my needle nose glue I have to buy a new one because that one was dead. So I'm like, got to buy a new one. All right, and we're going to finish this up by adding some of those in color dots. Let's move this out of our way. And let's bring in those in color dots. I'm going to use these Secret Sea dots. I'm just going to add some of those. And there is our first card, just using the Versamark ink and just dabbing on those soft pastels. So if you haven't given our soft pastels a try, I would say give them a try. I think you'll like them. So our next card, we're going to use the water painters. They don't make these anymore because the company that made them, I guess, told Stampin' Up they're not making them anymore, so we had to discontinue them. But if you have your water painters, that will work. If not, just a very fine tip toothbrush. Listen to me. Oh my gosh, a very fine tip paintbrush. Oh, are you kidding me? I hope I can hear this. It's saying my mic is muted. I am hoping that we do not have a muted mic. So we're going to use this paintbrush, and we are going to stamp the large floral image using our Spotlight on Nature stamp set. Okay, just going to ink that up with our memento. Now, if I was doing real water painting, I would definitely use Stays On. But because I'm going to, it's really like a faux watercoloring because the brush is very dry. We're using a very dry brush. I'm just going to go stamp this here because we want to die cut it. Okay, So I wanted to have like a little bit lighter. I didn't want the ink to be full strength. So I'm going to bring this in here because I'm going to add some drops of water to my silicone mat because I'm going to use a paintbrush, because if you don't have your painters, I want you to see how to do it. And I'm going to add some color directly to my leaves here. Okay, just a little bit of color. Okay, and some of them are hard because they're kind of skinny, but we're going to add some color with our leaves. I'm going to take just dampen that paintbrush. You don't need to get it dripping wet. And then we're just going to pull the color through the leaves. Okay, so you're just going to take that little bit of chalk, a little bit of pastel that's on there, and you're just going to pull that color up. So now, because my brush is very dry, it's, I can use the Memento, but if I was using a very wet brush, then I would most definitely have to go with the StazOn. But because StazOn is made for watercoloring. But again, my brush is fairly dry. I'm not oozing water. I don't keep oozing water out of it. I'm just doing just the bare minimum. And then I would go back and I would do the stems. But I want to show you the flowers. So I'm going to show you this. So I'm going to add some Calypso Coral down here to the bottom of every flower. Right? I'm just going to do that. And then we're going to come up and we're going to add some Flirty Flamingo to the top of it. Right? I'm going to flip this so that it's going, look at that. I got pastel chalk on my fingers. All right. So now I want to take that, make sure my brush doesn't have any more green on it. And I want to take this Calypso Coral and I want to pull it up towards the top. So I want to kind of merge those two colors, the darker color towards the bottom of my flower with that Flirty Flamingo closer to the top. Okay, so I'm just going to keep doing that. And we would do that to all three flowers. We just keep taking it. And if you run out of, your dust, your chalk dust, you can just add a little bit more to your scrap paper and then just pick that up and add some more color to your flowers. Okay, so that is how I would do that. And when you're done, it looks like I don't want to spend the whole time coloring. But when you're done, you would get a flower. They look like this. And then I went and die cut it with our Spotlight on Nature dies. This is one of the larger dies in the set. There are two this size. This one has the like the lines. The other one has like I guess like dots and dashes. All right, let me get this out of the way. All right, now again, we're going to bring in our cardstock. I don't want to have any chalk dust on there, so I'm going to get rid of this piece of scrap paper. Okay, put that over there, and then we are going to come through with the rest of our card. Now, this is Calypso Coral, standard A2, 8.5, 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. I have another piece for the top. This is 5 1/4 by, 5.5 by 4 1/4, and it's embossed with the dotted circles embossing folder, and that's going to sit right here. Okay, and then we're going to add this. We're going to trim it so that it kind of has that off, one side is straight. So I'm going to hold it there and I'm going to mark it with a pencil because I want to trim that portion off. Okay, so before we do anything else, let me pull in my paper trimmer and let us cut that piece off. Still got a piece of cardstock in there from before. So I'm going to put that line right in my cutting groove, and then I'm just going to slice that off. Be brave. Just don't even think about it. I'm not going to second guess this. All right, let's go ahead and put our card together. So I've got a piece of our basic white for the inside. Again, 4 1/4. And you don't have to put this in. I like adding this piece. I think it gives the card a finished look. Again, my opinion, you don't have to do it. The cardstock is light enough that you could write on it for sure. Okay, Now this, because this is embossed, I am going to put this on with liquid glue because sometimes my tape runner will rip my embossed cardstock. So I'm just going to go ahead and add my liquid glue. I'm going to add this. I remember this is the same full size as the front. So you're going to line up all the edges, top and bottom, side to side. Just give that a good press. Right, now let's go ahead and add our circle with some dimensionals, and it's going to go right up to the edge because we want that straight edge. And we've got those circles radiating out from it, those dotted circles kind of radiating out. Now this is a fairly large piece, so I may go a little dimensional happy because you don't want your piece to sag. You put so much work into it. The last thing you want to do is have it sag and get bunched up or messed up in the mail. So we are going to take off all of these dimensional covers. Okay, there we go. There we go. Can't get that cover off. All right, we're just going to go ahead and put that there. Make sure your straight edges are even. All right, that looks pretty good. Okay, now we're going to add a little butterfly. I'm just going to add some glue with him. Okay, let's put him up here, right above our flowers. Then I've got congratulations. I had happy birthday on the other one. This one we have congratulations. Now, because this is going to hang off, right? So we're going to put glue on this end, and we're going to put mini dimensionals on the end that's hanging off because that will make it meet the height of our circle. Because remember, we lifted our circle up on dimensionals. So we need to put the part of the sentiment that will be hanging off our circle. We need to put that up on dimensionals. So I had some minis here. Hopefully I can find them. Here we go. I'm like, I know I had some minis because this is small. So I'm just going to put like 2 minis on there. Okay, too many dimensionals. We got our glue on one side. So take that off. Okay, we're going to stick it. So we got our dimensionals that are hanging off the card. Our other part that is on the card has our glue on it. And then we're just going to come in and add some of these faceted gems. These are so pretty. I love these gems. I just think they're very, very pretty. Put one there. And that card is done. But isn't that pretty? Simple. We just used our pastels and a little bit of watercoloring, and we have another pretty card. Now this one, this is a new paper. This is called Irresistible Designs. I always forget. Irresistible Designs. It's 12 by 12. There's, I believe, 6 sheets in here. 2 each of 3 designs. Yes, there's 2 each of 3 designs. I chose to work with the florals. There's like a leaf design and then plaid, like just straight lines. So for this one, and this one is by far the messiest technique. So again, we've got our basic card. I'm going to go ahead and put some of these messy. So I'm going to add my piece of basic white to the inside. Okay, again, 4, 5 1/4. Again, I have more hearts and sentiments from our ephemera packs. And I want my ribbon. I don't know where I put my ribbon. I had my, I moved it all the way over. Hang on, let me grab. All right, there we go. There is my ribbon. We're going to use that. And then we're going to take our piece of and we are just going to color all over our design. Oh, okay, and I'm just going to color this. And we got lots of chalk dust kind of hanging out. Let me see if I can get, okay, because I got some blue here on my Flirty Flamingo. All right, then let's add some Daffodil Delight. Because my house is freezing. My husband and I are not. All right, so we're going to just kind of knock off some of that dust. Right, I'm going to kind of a lot of that excess chalk. That color there. All right, just make sure. Set. You see, I got it on the back. So now I'm going to add some ribbon to it. So I'm going to put some there for now. Add that. This is just to add just another little. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put this on the card base. Okay, get that out of there. You can see the lines, right? The flowers that just kind of pop because it wasn't that far of a drive for us. Maybe just like an hour and a half. Facing down towards the opening of my card. I've got my knot.